So I asked you guys on the community page if you wanted me to talk about the Neil Gaiman situation. It was a resounding yes, get into it. So I will explain after the intro why I have to use some choice words and I can't really get into all the details. But of course, if you want all the details, they are available in that giant exclusive by Vulture. So let's get into this horrific situation. Okay, so this was something I asked you guys over on the community tab if you wanted me to talk about it. Now, again, due to the nature of this, I do have to be very careful with the words I say, what I censor, and all that. So, unfortunately, I do gotta pull back on this video. I can't go into all the explicit details that have been provided, but with knowing that, I will still cover the quotes and the statements. But in the meantime, those words that are obviously awful and very descriptive in terms of their nature, I will just fade those out or bleep them out. One of the two, depending on how the editing goes. Just so you guys understand that I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm just doing it for the sake of some of the younger audiences that will watch this. And also, YouTube's going to be YouTube and all that. Hopefully you guys understand. So let's get into the whole situation in regards to Neil Gaiman. So I think most of you will be familiar with his name and his work. He has been all over the industry, creating some of the hottest independent comics of all time, but also having his stamp on some of the most iconic comic characters and universes and takes of all time. He's worked on the who's who's from the DC universe to, of course, working on Batman, to being the man in charge of Marvel 1602, my personal favorite and my wife's favorite Marvel, side story / multiverse tale. And again, his stunning work shines throughout his passion for comics, whatever it was that he worked on. Over the last few decades, he's sort of become like a symbol and an icon in comic books and books, really. And most recently, he's had a string of successes and wins, especially when it comes to the likes of Sandman and its huge success under the whole DC Vertigo banner, but also, of course, becoming a big deal Netflix series, for example. Now, I am not going over this for brownie points or idolizing him or something. I just need to explain who he is for some people that might not know, because this all stems from his popularity and fame and how celebrities let it go to their heads, which is why we're going to now transition over into what's been going on. And this all starts with Neil Gaiman back last year in July, where multiple women came forward to make a statement and accuse Neil Gaiman of just being more or less an awful being, and a lot of it related to sexual misconduct and abuse. Now, I should point out that there's been, as far as I remember, at this point, well over 2 decades of people saying Neil Gaiman is a bit weird, don't meet your heroes and things like that. And a lot of people just sort of brushed it off because, come on, this nerd, it's Neil, he writes good stuff. But again, there's always something underneath the facade, right? Well, Vulture has a big, and I mean giant, piece talking to multiple women that have come forward, among others that are apparently still not willing to come forward, but they are also backing up what these other women have said and said similar situations have happened. I highly suggest you guys go check it out, the article on Vulture, because they go into some insane details of how Neil talks and deals with and abuses women. So I'm going to read a couple of quotes that make me very uncomfortable. And again, this is where the censoring of the words is coming in. I'm not censoring the words because I'm trying to cover for him. Some people are going to automatically assume that. I have to censor these words because, one, I don't even want to say them. Two, he's abusing women. Let me make that clear. So here we go. And for context, this is when he invited a woman over who was there more or less because she was the nanny of the child and they knew her. So he told her, hey, why don't you go get comfortable in the pool we got? Go for a swim. I'm going to be taking an important big business call, so you can go do whatever you want. But then he shows up, and here's what happens. One woman, and again, I don't want to like use their names or anything like that, just because that's all in the article, and that's not my place to use their name or anything like that. Here's how it goes. She said, and I quote, I can tell you that he put his fingers straight into my blank and tried to put his blank into my blank. And I said, no, no. Then he tried to rub his between my, and I said, no. And then he asked if he could blank on my face. And I said, no. He did it anyway. He said, call me master, and he said, be a good girl. You're a good little girl, end quote. And then there's some real weird fetish stuff that I can't even get into, but here's another quote. He ordered her to blank him off while he watched screeners of the first season of Sandman. In one instance, he thrusted his into her mouth with such force that she all over him. Then he told her to eat off his lap and lick it up from the couch, end quote. One woman would then add, he told her it's the only way that I can get off, end quote. In another instance, and I quote, Gaiman flipped her over on the bed, she says, and attempted to blank her with his blank. She told him no. He stopped for a moment and then did it anyway with his blank. At this point, she tells him, I just shut down. She laid on the bed until it was finished. And all of this resulted in one woman getting a nasty UTI. That is a urinary tract infection, which, if not dealt with, and depending on how severe it is, can cause death. Just so we're clear on this. Again, I'm sorry that I have to talk about this in a specific way. One, very uncomfortable. Two, that this is very weird. And again, it's somebody that has worked in this field and many people have praised for so long. And again, you're just looking at all these situations and what's been stated and trying to unpack it, and it just doesn't seem real, you know? But again, these stories are collaborated by Vulture with actual evidence and things that they've seen. So things are really bad. And what else is here is that many of the women in question, Gaiman, who's in his 40s, are just turned 18 to oldest in their early low 20s. And what happens is he would essentially like try to find them at conventions and convince them, hey, I'm a good guy, I'm Neil Gaiman, hey, I see you're a really big fan, how about if I do this, or a personal tour, or this or that. And again, being somebody who's met a ton of celebrities, I've seen this type of behavior in a good way and a bad way. Sometimes the celebrity legit just was like, hey, I'm inviting you because we're going to party. And I'm like, all right, yeah, we are. Other times it was a little creepier with what they were saying to me and my group. And I was like, ooh, this is a red flag. Sometimes you can't tell, especially if they are good at hiding it, which Neil clearly is and was. And I'm not going to read any more quotes. Again, I urge you guys to go check it out. There's a lot here to unpack, but Neil Gaiman is a very weird and awful and sadistic. I don't even want to call him a human being at this point, just reading further and further into this article that Vulture put out. Some of these things that are in here legit made me question what exactly is wrong with this man's upbringing, and how can, or should I say, how did his wife deal with this? He's had 2 wives, one from 1985 to 2007 and another from 2011 to 2022. And some of this occurred during that. It's very, very off-putting and uncomfortable in so many ways. And what makes it even a little bit more uncomfortable is that according to one of the victims, his wife, or ex-wife, Amanda Palmer, was complicit in this. She would also be allegedly like helping round up and find the targets, and then trying to comfort and be like, oh, I promise you, we're going to take care of you. Don't worry about this. As long as he's happy, we're both going to be happy. So his ex was actively helping him essay women, many of which were young women in their formal years. Very, very disturbing, very disappointing in such a prolific, writer that so many of us love so many of his books and comics and characters. And it just makes you think about so many other things. Like at this point, Neil Gaiman right now is in Vince McMahon territory of disgusting. This guy should never be talked about again in a good light. He is an absolutely awful, disgusting human being. And I cannot stress that enough. And I hope that more women come forward. And I hope that he gets the harshest possible whatever sentencing a judge or punishment will give him. Because just go read it for yourself again. I can't stress this enough. Absolutely disgusting. He's not even a human being at this point. He is an utter piece of fucking human garbage. Thank you for checking out that video, and thank you for your continued support. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, do whatever you will, and if you're so inclined and would like some additional content from us, which includes unfiltered content and bonus discussions, we do offer it exclusively in our member section. We hope to see you there. So thank you for watching, and have a good one.